Da-da-da-da-da-da!
Charge!
It's baseball time. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. Dustin, Nameco. We're going to be doing all of our tiers and rankings like we always do for the preseason stuff, so be sure to check all those out. And Top 150 cheat sheet will be up very shortly on the site, so be sure to check that out as well. Brent, tier 1.
All right, tier 1, you got it. It's kind of crazy. Well, it's not too crazy, but our top building's not Albert Pujols. He's moved out of the number 1 for first base, and for us, we got Joey Votto. Here's why. We really think he's a guy that can compete for the Triple Crown. Therefore, that's fantasy goodies all over the place. We love Votto, but all these guys are 1A, 1B, 1C with Votto, Pujols, and Fielder.
Tier 2, still a ton of talent. And we start out with Billy Butler. I mean, this guy really stepped it up last year. Over 100 RBIs, batted over 300. I mean, he does have the potential of being a first-round pick next year after we see what he does this year. But all the potential in the world. We love his upside. And another guy to talk about, Goldschmidt. You know, this guy kind of was a roller coaster ride last year, but he had some of the hottest streaks out of any player in baseball. Definitely a lot of power with this young guy. Well worth a gamble in kind of the early middle round.
Yeah, love Billy Butler. All right, at number 10, we got Ike Davis, and the reason I want to highlight him out of this tier is, yeah, we got different opinions on him. Dustin sees this guy as a potential home run champ, you know, have a decent average, not a great average. I kind of look at him as Adam Dunn in the making 2.0, a lot of power, terrible average. With that said, you're going to get a ton of home runs out of this guy.
Come on, Adam Dunn. Way more upside than that. Tier 4 starts out with one young guy that I'm sure you've all heard about, but Rizzo. You know, he's a guy that came up last year, had some moments. This guy's got a ton of potential. 15 home runs and 337 at-bats last year. You gotta love that. Another guy I want to talk about, Brandon Moss, out there with Oakland. He's definitely going to get more at-bats this year. 21 home runs and 265 at-bats. You gotta love that. I'm not completely believing that, but you know, I think he is going to have a decent amount of power, decent average. He's not a bad first base to grab late.
All right, as we move into tier 5, the two guys I'm going to highlight, the first one's going to be Corey Hart. I know some of you guys might be thinking he's way too low, but the reason he's here, a repeat of last year, we feel is pretty much the ceiling for this guy. When we're drafting our fantasy teams, we like the guys with the highest ceiling possible, so therefore that's why Hart's ranked here. And then I got to bring up Morneau just because he's Justin Morneau.
Former MVP.
Former MVP. I even have that written on my notes. We didn't even talk. He is a former MVP. He does have the pedigree. Hopefully him and his balloon helmet and concussions are all good to go. If you can get Morneau really, really late, not a terrible utility guy.
He's a great second first baseman to grab and just see what happens. You never know. Tier 6. Decent talent in this tier. I'm a big fan of Alonso. I know he plays out in San Diego, not the best hitter's ballpark. Probably part of the reason why he only had 9 home runs. But 39 doubles from this guy. He's a youngster. A lot of times those doubles will turn into home runs eventually. I do like this guy's upside. And then Moreland and Belt, a couple of young bats. Obviously huge upside there with those guys as well. Again, good gambles to grab late.
Tier 7, just highlighting one guy out of here, and that's Chris Carter. You know, he only had 218 at-bats last year, but in those 218, he had 16 jacks. He's penciled in actually to start in the outfield for the Astros this year, but he's starting with first base eligibility because that's where he played last year.
In the last tier, bunch of young guys with Parmalee, Gamble, Smoke, and Wallace. All late round gambles, and then mixed in Old Man Dunn. 41 home runs last year.
Adam Dunn 1.0.
Just over the Mendoza line at 204. But if you want cheap power, if you're in a Roto League or whatever, he's your man. So that's our first baseman tiers. Like we said, check out all the other tiers and rankings, top 150. Get into the forums. If you've got any questions, we'll see you in there. Nameco, Dustin, baseball.
Yeah.